Welcome, guests, and especially welcome, Lisa. I am thrilled to announce and welcome Lisa Shepard-Stewart to the podcast today. Lisa is an author, designer, and entrepreneur who has built a thriving business celebrating African textiles through her studio, Cultured Expressions. Based in Rahway, New Jersey, Lisa shares her passion for sewing, quilting, and crafting with a global audience through virtual workshops, on-demand classes, live events, lots of really amazing live events, my friends, but especially including virtual shopping experiences. She uses video in a really innovative way, including virtual education. She's made it easier forever than creatives to explore the beauty of African-inspired projects. And the thing I love about you, Lisa, is that you foster authentic connections with your community. And your enthusiasm for cultural creativity are so inspiring, and I can't wait to dive into your story. So, Lisa, hi.
Hi, Lyric. Thanks for having me.
It is so good to talk to you and see you
Always,
again,
likewise.
right? Um, so tell me a little bit. Can you remember a little bit about how we first interacted? Do you remember? Do I
Mm.
remember?
Starting out with a curve. Let's see. How did we first? It had to be over virtual learning, I would say,
I
right?
think it was. I think
Yeah,
we met through the Global Quilt Connection,
right. So then
probably.
it had to be a pandemic related kind of a thing, which I think everybody learned how to learn the word pivot at that point and had to do what we had to do to survive. So I'm sure that had to be where it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that really stands out in my brain, close to that time, a little bit after, was the opportunity to shop at your store. You own a brick and mortar
I do.
place. You own
Yes,
a
right
brick and
behind
mortar
us.
store, right?
Hmm.
And you import and sell the most beautiful fabrics, but I have no way to get up to New Jersey most of the
Right.
time. And I was looking for something kind of specific, and you mentioned you had virtual shopping experiences. So tell me how that works. This is so interesting to combine um, a real life, in person, physical experience with virtual technology in the easiest manner possible.
Simple, simple. I mean, I'm not a heavy adopter of technology or I use what I have to and then I learn how to use it and I kind of stay in my lane and I'm good with that. So the virtual shopping really started in 2018, which was just pre-pandemic. I had a customer and her husband came in and she's looking around. She goes, "Oh, my daughter would love this." Her daughter is in, I think it was North Carolina. So she FaceTimes the daughter. They both have iPhones. I'm an Android girl, so it's going to be relevant in a second. So she gets on, she FaceTimes the daughter, and daughter said, "Oh, get me 2 yards of that." And I'm thinking, "Ooh, interesting," because I was open for maybe about a year at that point. I opened in late 2017, and I was looking for a way to connect with all the customers I already had, through online and all that. And I said, well, they won't care that I have a brick and mortar. I have to figure out a way to kind of involve them. So she comes in, the daughter spends about $75 on this and I'm thinking, okay, I have to make this work for Android because I refuse to get an iPhone, right? So found an app. At that time it was Google Duo, but Google Meet works on both, and then I also WhatsApp. And so I was kind of prepared. I started doing that a little bit. I really didn't promote it a lot. I just said it has to get a catchy name. So I decided to call it virtual visits, really simple, and started just kind of promoting that. And it was kind of a low amount of traffic on that, but I was just still kind of testing the idea and that kind of thing. So here comes the pandemic. And 2020, everybody's on Zoom, everybody's learning how to use it and all that. So I switched to Zoom as the main use of the selling because we couldn't have customers in the shop, everything was shut down, but I was allowed to come in and ship. I had about 8 virtual visits a day. I mean, it was crazy. So I had to go to at that point I was still taking, phone appointments. Okay, let's meet at 2 o'clock, whatever. I had to go to a booking site to book the appointments because it was so much. So I went to Calendly, which is again another low tech, kind of nice, easy way to book appointments, things like that, and started using that and booking people. And it just was an easy way to keep track of everybody. Everybody loved it. It seemed like they spent a good amount of money, almost like a buffet. You see this, you see that, and then you're shopping, but you don't feel like you're shopping in a sense. So, nice high ticket things, and it was good for everybody. We had a great time. A couple of friends at a time would get onto a call and shop, and it's like their little social hour. They're in different cities, so they get on the same Zoom appointment and they shop, and everybody's giggling and laughing, and no, I want this, I want that, you know. So it just developed into this whole thing, and even now the pandemic is over, everybody's kind of back. It's still a real big part of what I do, and people love the idea. Once they have the first one, they love it, they tell their friends. So, you know, and I think you can speak from experience maybe.
Yeah, I can. It was my first concierge
Hmm.
and first virtual shopping live
Right.
experience. So I filled out a form saying what I was looking for.
Hmm.
You had polled things that you thought fit the bill, and they were lovely. They were perfect. You have such a good eye and an understanding of being able to hear what the customer actually wants and provide
Right.
that for them. And then you started pulling out these other things, which was fantastic. And the thing is, this is so low tech. It is so
So,
miraculous still that we still, right?
yeah.
That we can see each other across distance. It feels very Star Trek to me. I love it
Yes.
that we can speak face to face,
Hmm.
but adding that in without needing all kinds of fancy, right? You have
Exactly.
a phone, you have a computer, you can talk to people, and you made it an integral and profitable part of your business.
It's a lot of fun. People really like it. And also they can show me things if they're trying to match up something. It's two ways. So they can say,
Hmm.
"Oh, I need this, I need some kind of something in this color, whatever it is," and we can really get a lot done. And generally the color is good. It's not a problem and things are pretty true to color, that kind of thing. So you don't really get that issue as much. So basically they make the appointment. We both meet on Zoom at the same time, and I take them around the store literally on my phone and show them everything. The other nice thing is they get to buy fabrics by the yard. On the website, keeping things by the yard would be impossible, just management wise and everything. So here you're able to say, oh, I want 2 yards of this, I want a yard of that. So it's a nice way to see everything in the studio, things that aren't on the website, special things we have, like, you know, limited amounts of things. And so people really feel like they've been here a little bit, you know, so it's nice.
That's such a good point because people think so often that technology separates us.
Mm,
But in this case, it's not, I mean, the relationship you have with your customers is better. It's closer. It's almost a more intimate experience than walking into a shop because you're seeing their space and their things that they're showing you,
right.
and it's reciprocal. So
Hmm.
it's a beautiful way to create this kind of feeling and community.
It works really well. Yeah, they have a good time. I have two sisters that get on, and now they live together. They used to be in different cities. Now they're living together, and they always kind of fight over the yardage.
No, I want that one. And you're like,
Right,
hey, I have enough for both of you.
right, right. And it's like, I want a yard. I want a yard too. And then they get the same things. They're really sweet. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it's
lovely.
just and I have regulars that just whenever new mud cloth comes in, they want to see the mud cloth, or new boutiques come in, they want to see the new boutiques. And I know who likes what, so I can kind of give them a little hint. Hey, stuff's coming in, you know. And we ship it out, and it's been really fun. So yeah.
It's lovely. I would like to hear how you got to where you are. Were you always, how did you end up as a textile artist and seller, importer of African fabrics?
I love fabric from the age of 4. I had a little like loosely woven blanket, and the way the yarns did this and stayed together, like the weave, I
Hmm.
was just fascinated by it. And I don't think I verbalized it at 4, but I was just like, that was my thing. So fabric forever. Learned to sew when I was 12, back when Singer had stores. Remember in the mall, Singer had actual stores. And I learned to sew. I took some sessions. I was hooked. That led me to FIT just really quickly, and I studied advertising and communications and marketing. I didn't want to study textiles as such, but you have to take some textile classes, you know, when you're there. And it was just a nice combination of things. So I always had a job in the textile sewing, what was called home sewing back then, home sewing
Hmm.
industry, and either selling fabric, buying fabric. So I was always surrounded by it. And then my first trip to Africa was 1986 to Senegal. Brought back duffel bags of fabric. Didn't know, have a plan because we don't have to have a plan when we shop, right? We just acquire.
It's too.
So I was acquiring a lot of pieces, boutiques and things. And then later on in 99, I wrote my first book, African Accents. fabrics and crafts to decorate your home. So it's 25 years since this has been out, which still blows my mind. And from there, the business just kind of started. I realized that showing people pretty fabric that they couldn't get didn't make sense. So I started selling it, and buying it, selling it, merchandising. And that all became like a little package. Like, here's the fabric and here's what to do with it. So it just grew from there. And when I tell you, I never really had a real solid set business plan. So for those who are like, oh, I have to have it, I think it depends on just how you work. I would sit down to try and write one and it just would never happen. I just was not a business plan kind of a person. I
Right.
guess because it's also, maybe it's part of the low tech personality. I don't know. But things evolved and I learned at different jobs. And then eventually this became it. So I still do some freelance work, but this is what I do. So,
Yeah. You do so many things that connect people together. I mean,
mhm.
you've had the book, you write magazines. Don't you have a new issue out right now?
This one just came out. We're shipping it this week. Fabrigasm.
What a fantastic name.
This is
So
number
appropriate.
11, and it's just a good time. So it's just fun. So people have, it's funny, each with each issue people start to ask when's the next one. So I think that's a good sign. People like it, and there's no subscription because I don't want to pressure myself. So when I get have time to write one, it comes out, and it keeps it fun.
You know,
I don't do pressure. I cannot pressure myself. If it's not fun for me, like, I think it shows in the work too, like
absolutely.
if I had to force out 4 issues of this a year, it would stress me out and it would show. It wouldn't be the quality, I don't think, would be there, so
One of the things I love about this world is there are so many different ways to do what you love. There are so many different ways to create community. There are so
hmm
many different ways to be successful. And I see you as doing things your own way successfully. Tell me tell me what you really feel. What is your relationship with technology and video technology in particular? How do you really feel about it, Lisa?
what, I feel that the tools are great. um I think that if I can get a result that I'm happy with and not have to spend $1 million, I'm fine with that. When I do have to spend money, I spend it, and I learn what I need to learn. But I'm just not the person that has to have the newest and the latest and the best. Like, when a phone comes out, I'm not the first in line for it, that kind of thing. Um, I'm just comfortable with things that work. And as long as it works, that's fine. So technology, I appreciate what it does, and I appreciate the advancements because eventually I'll get to it. But I just don't feel the pressure of always having to have newest and best. And this whole process of going virtual, with post COVID kind of thing, and keeping the business afloat, and, like I mentioned, pivoting and all that. I'm grateful for the tools that are here. I just don't feel that I need all of them.
And this is so important, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the crux of the matter that you are able to build community, you are
Mhm.
able to connect with the people you serve, you are able to support yourself and have a thriving business
Mhm.
without the tech overwhelm. So many people think that getting into any kind of video technology or
Mhm.
virtual experiences like
Right.
you offer is too much, too hard to learn the tech, too expensive.
Mm.
It needs to be like Hollywood slick in
Right.
order to be offered to the world.
Right.
And you are the opposite of that.
I mean, but there are tools that make you look like that without too much trouble too. So there are some
Exactly.
that are complicated and some that are really easy, I think. So I tend to go toward the easier ones. But it's interesting, as we're even just talking now. I'm also very low gadget. I'm not gadget girl in my sewing either. Like, my sewing room, I don't have every latest.
Hmm.
I have what I need and it works for me. And if I need something else, I'll go and seek it out, or whatever. I'm not against buying things or against using things, but I guess I'm just at this level and it works for me. So whatever works for you, I think you have to figure out, and then just be comfortable with it and do the best you can do with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there is something lovely to be said about simplicity, finding the lowest workable, well, not searching for the lowest, but
Mm,
finding the easiest workable technology
what works
and
for you?
going with it without worrying, without stressing that it isn't enough. I would like to hear about how else you use virtual technology in your business. I know you teach.
I teach, I do trunk shows and lectures. I did a lecture last week for a guild in Virginia. Pretty much set it up here, and I hang the quilts and take each one down and talk about it.
Can you walk
Um,
us through how you
how I set up.
how you do the tech?
Hmm.
And you're talking about when you're talking about you're talking about a virtual program that you gave. You're in New
Right,
Jersey, the guild is in Virginia.
Virginia. So set up, well, this particular one we use my Zoom account. So depending on if you're
Mhm.
working with guilds, sometimes they have their, rules of the way they like to do things. So you figure that all out in your contract that you've done ahead of time and all that. I usually take a deposit just to, hold the date, and they're used to that.
Of course.
So the day comes, I generally will get on 15 to 20 minutes early. So I'm on my laptop, which is what I'm using now with you. And I usually have a second camera for close-ups, so I can hold something up. So there's a second camera that would be kind of
Next
here
to
that
your
I can switch,
workspace, right?
right, switch cameras back and forth. On Zoom, it's easy to switch back and forth. You just
Hmm.
kind of click which one you need. And I know there are things that maybe make it smoother, but again, I'm not at that point that I feel I really need to.
It's not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think for what I do, it's fine. So, and people are happy, they can see well and all that. Um, I have really good overhead lighting already, so I haven't
Mm,
really needed to do spotlights. And I've seen setups where people have the light and it looks like like a real studio. And I guess they kind of need that. I have really good, strong, like kind of task lighting overhead. I do have a spotlight on this new camera that I have I have an external camera from my laptop. So there's that camera and the second one for close-ups. I just kind of, again, toggle back and forth. I try not to go back and forth too much, so I talk, and then when I have to go to a close-up, I don't want it to be like a constant thing because it's just distracting. So kind of structure the class where I can, or the lecture. Usually lectures I don't use close-ups, but more in classes, hands-on
hmm.
workshop. So I'll try to structure the class where I can be up here for a while and then come down, stay for a while, and just kind of think through how much I'm going to be back and forth because I think that's distracting a little bit.
Do you
Um,
share slide decks or pre-recorded videos in your workshops or lectures?
Sometimes I'll do a slideshow, just images. So I have
Hmm.
a lecture called All About Ankara or African prints like these, and
Hmm.
they have an interesting history and the meanings of them and all that. So I have a slide deck that goes with that where I pull like maybe 8 of the more popular ones and I go through each one and talk about those. So that's just a share screen on
Right.
Zoom, really simple. And that's smooth
People
enough. You just back and forth.
Right. And that's a lovely thing, an advantage of virtual technology. You could
Hmm.
have a live trunk show and you're up at front of a crowd and
Right.
showing these things, but only the first row really sees things up close.
Hmm.
But with virtual technology and sharing a close-up photo, everybody has a front row seat.
Right. And even with the close-ups, you can still zoom in very simply and not make a whole
Right.
big techie thing about it. You can zoom in and say, look at the stitching or look at the whatever it is, the
Hmm.
block, and zoom back out. And just has a nice look to it. And you can also choose whether you want to be a thumbnail and keep the video part going or whether you want to be the whole screen. So things like that, I don't consider that to be complicated at all. I mean, those are nice, simple little touches that make it look a little more polished, without again having to learn every term and keep on top of things. And the last thing I want is to have to like follow people on Instagram or something to get tips. I don't have time. I just
You mean you are the CEO of everything
yeah,
in your
something like
business?
that. I don't. Yeah, I
You
just
have time.
and also you're on screen so much
Right.
that's I have to really just kind of cut like how much am I going to be? How much
And
more can I really
simplify it.
do on screen? It's a
Right.
lot. Yeah,
And it's still effective, just having a Zoom
exactly.
account. One thing I heard you say is you have good task lighting, but
I
it's
do.
built in, so you don't really have to add on to that.
Right.
That's usually the first thing, if somebody is not in a space with good lighting,
Hmm.
it's easy. It doesn't have to be huge box lights, but just make sure that the people who are seeing you through a screen have good lighting, and you do, built right in. And then it's just computer and Zoom, little
Yeah.
camera hooked up
Second
to the
camera,
side.
maybe a third, depending on what's going on. But so I have little tripods, from Amazon. Sometimes I'll set up the third if there is a third camera or whatever it is, and it's really just pretty simple. I kind of don't stress over it, and once I see it, I feel like it looks right to me. It's not super
Hmm.
polished because it's not editing, it's live. So once I get on camera and I check my, check the check how I look or whatever, just kind of go from there. Because people are interested in what you're saying too. They're not coming to generally to criticize what you're doing. They're coming to learn. You're the authority, you're the expert. They want to hear what you have to say. And if you can just say it where it's neat and clean and you present it well, then I think that's the main thing, which again can be done very easily.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Um, we forget sometimes when we're faced with a camera instead of a
Mm,
room full of people that what we're here for is to connect with people.
exactly.
We're not talking to technology, we're talking to people, and that's what
Hmm.
they really care about.
Right. Right.
Could you have ever imagined early in your career what you are doing now with technology and how you're reaching your audience on a different scale than just the people who walk into your shop?
I didn't really have any idea, but I think that's part of why I never. There was a long time I really didn't even want a brick and mortar. It wasn't really of interest to me. So 2017, there were a couple different things going on that made me kind of change my mind. Just different, things in the community and in my personal, my work life, things like that. So again, like I said, when the women first came in with her husband and the daughter bought merchandise, I was always trying to think of ways to connect with the people that I already had a base, and had a connection with. And how are they going to be interested if they're not visiting Rahway, New Jersey? Like, and it's near New York City, but that's not enough of a draw for someone to come all the way across the country. So, um, I always wanted to do virtual classes because they were a thing before COVID. They just blew up with COVID, but they were always a thing. They were kind of there, and it was always in the back of my mind. Oh, I really want to do virtual classes to connect with my existing base and grow the base that's not local. And so COVID was like the kick in the butt that I really needed. Like, okay, if you don't do
Yes.
this, you're not going to be working. So let's get it together. Because I was always like, oh, that'd be nice. I really want to do it. Meanwhile, I'm trying to get the place up and running and, kind of get it moving. So within that first year, like I said, I opened late 2017, and then 2018, the customer came in that kind of inspired the whole virtual visits. Um, so I just kind of felt like, okay, I'll get to it. Let me just get settled. And the store traffic really isn't a lot unless people are coming. It's more like a destination. So people
Right.
know that I'm here. Not so many browsers just walking in because it's a very specialized kind of thing. It's sewing and quilting, and not everybody's doing that. So I knew I couldn't rely on that, which is probably why, in part, I never really wanted a store so much. But I couldn't keep teaching in my house in the basement and only promote the classes to people that I know, because after a while they're like, okay, Lisa, we got it. We've done the class, we've seen your basement, we're good.
You have to expand at some point.
Right. So at some point it's just like, what else can I do? So I thought having a more public space, I could reach more people, that whole kind of thing. Um, so yeah, the technology, again, in large part due to COVID, that was the push that really got me going in it. I was headed in that direction, but I was on the slow road, and this put me in like the fast lane, like you have to do it now. So I had a videographer come in, and I received grant money because the grant money was big with the local, the county and the town were give the businesses grant money. I used some of that to hire a videographer, and then I did my first on-demand classes. And so again, more technology, and then she brought her own lights because she, as a professional, she just brings all her stuff. Um, but she was even impressed, like, oh, we don't need a whole lot of lighting. You have really good lighting. So I was glad for that. Um, but that was her end of the technology. I really didn't have to worry about that too much because she did the editing, she did all that kind of thing. So I never really had to touch that kind of stuff. But
There's all different ways to do this. People can
yeah,
film and edit everything on their own, and you brought in somebody to do the parts that you weren't interested in learning. Perfect.
exactly. Because I intended to hire her to show me how to edit. And I was like, what am I doing? Just do the whole, how much to do the whole package? Come in, film it, give me a nice pretty little, file, and I don't want to even deal with it. So we
Right.
did that. Captions, the whole everything. It was nice. So it was nice to be able to support her business too and support mine and keep mine afloat with the grant money. That was great.
That is another really, really important thing.
Hmm.
If you think about what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what you love to do, what you really aren't interested in doing as a
Right.
business person, if you can focus your time
Hmm.
on the things that you love and farm out the rest of it, you have more time to do the
Exactly.
things only you can do in your
Right.
business.
and more
Right.
mental bandwidth too, because it's to keep all of that in your head. It's just more than I wanted to deal with, So with time and just the mental space, I was like, no.
And what has been the result of having on-demand classes?
Oh, it's been good. I have a whole separate website. I use Podia.
Hmm.
I started using, what was the one that went out of business? I can't, Coursecraft, I think it was.
Yes, it was.
So I was a Coursecraft refugee and found Podia. Everybody was scrambling for a different company. I
Right.
landed on Podia. I like them. Again, they're pretty low tech, easy to load your classes and do what you have to do and get in and get out kind of thing. So it's been good. I think I have about 6 or 7 classes. I have a couple of
Right.
just replays of live classes, and I have some that are more polished professionally, on
Hmm.
demand kind of thing. So.
And on-demand virtual workshops are the kind that somebody can pay for, sign up for, and they
Mhm.
just get the content. Do you give them long-term access to it?
They have access indefinitely. They can always just kind of, log back in and look at the videos again or that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't really limit it.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you reach your audience? How do you let people know about the virtual workshops you have and about the virtual shopping experiences you have?
hmm Well, I've done an email for like ever. I've probably been doing emails like many, many, many years. So I just keep growing that list. I use Instagram and Facebook, the usual kind of things. I'm not on TikTok. I don't intend to be. Whether it survives or not, I just don't. Again, how much headspace do you have, So I do kind of what I feel comfortable doing. So I do a lot of posts on those platforms and my emails. And tonight I'm doing what I mean, this wouldn't be anything, but I do little virtual events like sip and sews. I did a midnight sip and sew virtual, and that came about because I was posting something at like 2 in the morning, and some friends that I know to be local, like in the New York area, commented right away. And I'm like, "What are you doing up? What are you doing up?" So I'm like, if people are up, maybe I should do a midnight virtual sip and sew. So I've done a couple of those. They go from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern. And people really hang out till the end. So we're either I'll teach a little quick project or we'll just kind of do show and tells or hang out and sip, whatever.
Do they pay to show up?
If I'm doing a class, it's paid. Tonight is
Hmm.
free. Tonight is just it's just this is the Serenity edition. Serenity ending in TEA because I have this Serenity
Mm,
um
nice.
little recipe. And it's been so cold here. I was gonna call it the Frostbite edition, but that didn't sound as inviting. So I called it the Serenity edition. And this one I'm not teaching, it's just drop in, chit chat, whatever, let's stay warm together kind of thing. So just community building kind of thing.
And it's virtual via Zoom.
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
Easiest thing,
so
and I just send out a link, and it's great.
lovely. It
Yeah.
is Zoom is such good technology and easy to use for most people. There's lots
hmm
of other online platforms, but especially in the creative world that we live in, Zoom is just easy technology.
It
I've
is.
used lots of other virtual meeting platforms, and
Mm,
for the kind of work we do, for teaching, for interaction, for building that community, it's just easy for our people to use.
yeah. I had also done a live event. I called it Fabrigasm Live, based on the magazine,
Mhm.
and it was a 2-day event, and I had speakers. I used Hopin. I don't know if you're familiar with Hopin. Got bought out, but it was a company called Hopin, and they do like a it's more like a real studio. You can bring people in the backstage and you bring them on, and so we had guest speakers and panel discussions, things like that, all based on African fabrics. A lot of my friends kind of helped me
Mhm.
out, did that. Um, so
So
that was
it's
a
like a
beautiful,
virtual conference summit
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing?
like a 2-day kind of conference. We had, the schedule and everything, and that
And
was
is
fun. It was
Hopin used inside of Zoom or a whole different platform?
No, it's a different company
Okay.
altogether. Yeah. So I kind of had to learn that. So that was one instance. That was what, late 2021, I think it was, or 22. Um, but that was the instance where I had to really kind of learn technology and get all my speakers. We had to kind of make appointments and just do a run through and that kind of
Hmm.
thing. And it went well and it was cool and everything, but I don't want to spend my time like that. So if I did another one, I'd probably just again hire somebody to really run it and I would just do the fun part. um, so like I said, it was fun, but other things were happening so much, the virtual visits, and I just kind of didn't go back to doing another one, but I would. I mean, it would be nice to do. So, and at this point, I might just do one in person as opposed to a virtual conference,
Right.
So,
Well, you had a pretty large community and reach with your magazine and your books outside of your geographic area before you even started the
right.
brick and mortar
Right.
business, right?
And that was why I had to find a way to connect with them. Because I said they're not going to care that I have a, brick and mortar if they can't get here. So
Mhm.
the virtual visit was great because now they feel like they can be a part of it. Or sometimes when they do come and visit, um, and they've actually seen it, they're more comfortable doing the virtual visit when they go home because now they've really seen and touch and feel everything, and they kind of know what to expect when they get it. So
How do you think most of your new community members find you?
I like to try and ask them. It's funny you ask me that because I try to, especially when it's an email, like, by the way, how did you find us? And Google search and yeah, Instagram, just kind of. I don't think there's any one overwhelming or overarching kind of thing I can point to. Oh, this gets me a whole lot. There's just kind of people from all over, so
And you
word of
don't
mouth.
spend a lot of time on marketing strategy, do you?
I do. Well, that was my major, so I have to feel true to
Ah,
my
so tell
major.
us about that. Tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
but
that.
it kind of comes more naturally to me. Some people really struggle with the marketing. I like that part as opposed
Mhm.
to heavy technology. I like the, kind of figuring out what to do, what people are going to want, and testing different things. And then I also do the sojourns, the trips. So we do travel, African fabric related travel. So we'll go and do workshops or sightseeing, things that are related to African textiles.
If you were to chat with somebody who is really interested in starting their own um, virtual teaching business, they
Hmm.
were creative, they say they wanted to teach how to do, say, modern quilting with African fabrics, and you were their mentor, what kind of things would you tell them about building and finding an audience and using virtual technology?
I think before you even find the audience, you have to know what you're offering
Mm.
and know why it's unique and how it's unique because there are so many teachers doing so many things. And even if it is unique, it may not stand out as being, you have to kind of package it in a way that it shows that it's very obviously unique. So some kind of way differentiate yourself and learn from people that know, people like you, that do a lot of the training on the techie stuff that I couldn't, advise anybody. I mean, because it's again, I'm doing the low tech, the lower end of it. Um, and don't be intimidated, by the technology. Again, find what works for you. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be on every social media platform because, like I said, I refuse to just even before TikTok had issues. I'm just like I'm not doing another one right now.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Do what works for you. You don't have to do everything. If a guru tells you, oh, you have to do this and that, they're probably just selling that particular
What
package.
motive do they have?
Right. It's just like I don't really have to do that. So, um, but really know what your niche is so that you can market to those people. I think that's it. So you can't market to people blindly and not know what you're know exactly what what you have to offer and your strengths and all that. Um, and if your strength is and virtual learning virtually is some people are have a problem with it. So maybe try to if you find that you have customers that want what you do but they're not virtual minded, kind of not I'm not going to say dumb it down, but make simplify things for them so that maybe it's a one click process for them to get into something and just kind of
Right. Think of the
look at it.
customer
Look for
experience and
yeah,
make
yeah.
it
Because I have
easy
some
for them
customers
to
that are great customers, but they will not get on virtually. Like tonight when I do my little sip and sew, they just don't do virtual. I don't know if it could be an eyesight thing
they'll
because
be
they're
on
on the
Zoom, but
screen.
not on a virtual thing.
Right. That whatever they'll do sojourns with me. They'll buy the magazines. They'll buy fabric, but virtual, it's just not their thing.
Right.
So
I think it was interesting what you said about knowing that you have something unique. I think that really intimidates a lot of people, and they think they have to invent what they're teaching has to be unique.
your delivery has to be unique. Maybe then,
Exactly.
yeah,
It's about, well, I honestly think it's about having a unique relationship with your customers. I
exactly.
can be teaching the exact same thing as the person next to me, and there's enough
Right.
students for both of us.
Hmm.
And different students will communicate with us, and
Hmm.
we will communicate in ways that work for each
Right.
of us.
Right.
And that's part of the uniqueness. It's,
Hmm.
you know, you don't have to have a patent on something.
Yeah, you can teach half square triangles and make it appeal to someone that maybe it wouldn't appeal to otherwise, or I mean,
It's
so you
about
just have to
being your
find
authentic self and finding the
exactly.
people who connect with you
Right.
specifically. And this tool that we use, these screens, these cameras,
Hmm.
these websites, social media, whatever it is, I
Right.
think in my experience and with all the teachers I've worked with,
Hmm.
being your authentic self instead of trying too hard to be something you're not is much more effective.
Exactly. It's easier. It's easier on you. It's people, and people can kind of sense, I mean, the people that resonate with that are going to find you. So it's more fun for you to, and I mean, if you can't be passionate with it, then maybe find what you are passionate about, whatever is the technique or a fabric type that you use or whatever. You have to be passionate,
Yeah.
you know.
And you kind of have to love your people too.
Right.
You have to realize that you're bringing a gift to them and
Mm-hmm.
making their lives happier
Mm-hmm.
in order for that authentic connection to come across. I mean,
Exactly.
there is a thing with the screen. There is that layer of separation. I mean, we're seeing each other's shoulders up. It's so funny when I travel and meet somebody from the neck down for the first time that I've
That's
known
what they look like.
forever.
Okay. It is weird, yeah. It can be very surprising, yeah.
Um, but there is a level of you have to be a little bit more, and it's not a little bit
Mm.
more fake, it's a little more of who you really are
A little
in
more
order to
animated or
reach.
something, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of weird. But I think that again, going through COVID where everybody had to use Zoom,
Hmm.
and it wasn't even about teaching or classes, it was just people just had conversations. And you, if not for that, people wouldn't, you wouldn't be talking to anybody for days and days, especially people that refuse to leave the house for whatever reason, that kind of thing. So now that we've gotten used to it, like I know early on that I was always going to do virtual. Even after the pandemic ended the next day, I was still going to do virtual just because it's easier and I just feel like it works for me. So,
Very good. If you could look back on with the wisdom that you have now 10 years ago and talk to yourself and say, here's one thing I want you to know that will make your life easier as a business person. Or one thing, a
oh
thing.
wow. That's a good
What
one.
what advice would you give to your past self?
Business wise. Mm.
Or let's go life-wise as well.
You know what? I can't honestly think of anything without sitting here for like 5 minutes. And it's not to say that everything went smoothly or I wouldn't change anything, but
Hmm.
just the way it's gone overall is it's good. And even the parts that weren't so great got me to the better parts, if that makes sense. So I don't know that I could say, well, if I knew something else different.
No,
I mean,
that's a good thing too, though. To understand that the parts that aren't so great aren't always not worth going through. That's a
right,
backwards way to say that you learn something through them and they get you to places that you didn't know were possible or you didn't know you could go
exactly.
to.
Exactly. And my the business has grown so gradually. Like I just kind of go at that pace that is comfortable for me and I develop new things as I like my litmus test is I can't be the only one who'd love to do this. Let me plan a trip to Santa Fe and do indigo dyeing. It's like, okay. And people are like, yeah, we want to go too, So a lot of it is just so much things that I enjoy that I don't know that I could even tell myself to do anything different. But
Do you plan very far into the future?
I used to more. Like August used to be my month to kind of plan for the upcoming year, and like what I
Mhm.
want to do, and then because the summers used to be a little bit less busy for some reason, and now the whole year just stays busy. I don't know what like how that happened, but now I don't really get that. I don't really have that built-in time. I have to like kind of squeeze time in to try to plan
Mhm.
things, and I'm doing more, so it's harder to plan more when you're not taking that time to plan. So it gets a little difficult to do that.
What I should have thought of this ahead of time. What is some fun off-topic question that you would like me to ask you? Like, what are you reading? What is your favorite book? What is your favorite tea? What is your favorite drink?
Oh man, well, I can tell
Or
you about
if you
my.
could go anywhere in the world, or what is your favorite place to have traveled? What one of those questions should we ask?
I guess favorite. I mean, I don't know. I go to Ghana, but that's kind of it's just so I don't know. What do you want to? What were the choices again? My favorite tea.
Oh,
Um,
just dessert? Do you like desserts?
I do.
Do
I
you have
do
a good
dessert
recipe
sometimes.
for something? What's your favorite thing that you make? Do you
I have
cook?
recipes sometimes in the magazine.
Okay,
Sometimes I'll do recipes.
let me ask that question. Okay, Lisa, here's completely off topic.
Uh-oh.
Do you cook?
I do cook. Um,
What is one of your favorite things that you cook?
you know what I've recently been doing is between myself and my friend Michelle who works here, we're like cookie monsters. We just love cookies, right? So in an effort to try to be a little bit more, I guess, healthy with them, I vow to only eat cookies if I make them myself from scratch. Doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to run out and just get a cookie from somewhere, but I've been doing that a lot. So I've shared a couple of cookie recipes, like one, there might be one recipe in each Fabrigasm, and they come out once a year, so it's not a whole lot of cookies. But like this one is my new one. It's called a coconutty cookie. And it's kind of like if you like kind bars, it's like a kind bar. It's mostly just nuts held together by honey and a little drizzle of dark chocolate. So simple, kind of. And I'm thinking it's more healthy than, like
Sounds
an
delicious.
outside cookie. So
So with the addition of chocolate, it's all good.
always little dark chocolate, a little sea salt. So it's like a
Mm,
kind bar. It just, it's really good. So that recipe is in
excellent.
there. Um, I cook probably about the same amount as I used to, but I find like I'm doing quicker meals because I just time
Hmm.
wise, I
Right.
like to cook enough food to bring here to the studio and not have to eat really, from the restaurants too all the time and just try to,
Hmm.
save some money. And like I said, I think it's healthier to cook for yourself. So
Right.
I do kind of make myself cook when,
Good.
even if time is tight.
And one last question. What do you
Hmm.
love about your life right now?
I love a lot. I love most of it. I love a lot. I just turned 60. So I'm just
Yay.
like, wow. I mean, just, one of those hallmark numbers, you're like,
Hmm.
it just feels different than what you thought it might or whatever. So I'm enjoying everything. I still love my work. I always said I would do this until it's not fun anymore. And there's no signs of that, thank goodness. So I'll probably I don't know if I'm going to retire or what that sounds like, but I just love the work and the ability to do what I like and have people react to it and they like it too. And, to varying degrees sometimes. But just fun to be able to experiment and my husband, he's busy with his work, so we both kind of understand that when we're up at 2 in the morning working, that kind of thing. So,
Online with your friends at 2 in the morning.
yeah,
What
so
part of your business do you just look forward to doing?
all of it.
Oh,
I
that's
look forward
fantastic.
to the like the sip and sews, things that bring people
Hmm.
together because I see I just see the real connection in that, and that's a lot of fun.
Sounds like the community is
I love
a
going
really
to
big
Ghana
part
to
of it.
source my fabrics
Mm.
and find new artists, and I have people there that are like family now, and it's just I intend to spend more time. I went to Ghana 3 times last year. So I'm ramping that up and I'd like to be there a little more often. So, we'll see how that plays out. But just being able to do all that kind of stuff that I love and have other people, enjoy it and have some kind of impact on them, I think that's the best part. And that's across all the activities, the travel and the shopping and the everything else. So
What a joy it is
it's
to
fun.
have found something that you love to do and bring other people along for the ride, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's a blessing. Yep.
Yep. Lisa, thank you so much for spending this time with me, for talking to our audience, and for
Hmm.
sharing the joy and the wisdom and the beauty that you have to share with your audience, with the rest of
Thank you,
us.
Lyric. I had a good time, as we always do.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so
Likewise.
much.
Thank you.
Take care.